You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS. That was the New York Dolls from their first album, Vietnamese Baby. Then we had Shot on Both Sides by Magazine. And we started off with Black Angels, first Vietnamese War. We have Mike Garson in the studio.
Yeah.
How are you, Mike?
Good to be here. I'm fine, thank you.
Nice to see you again.
Likewise.
So I hear you went to the wrong address. Or you was almost going to go to the wrong
almost.
address. Yeah.
It just looked like a different parking lot.
Well, it is now. That's all that the old KLOS is just leveled now. The one that you came to before.
Wow.
But you live in town, right?
Yeah, not too far from here.
Yeah. You've always lived here.
I'm from New York originally.
But you've been here like what? 30
I've been
years?
here since '78. Yeah. A long time.
Yeah, I got here 82. I've been here before that, but I kind of didn't leave after like 82, 83.
Ah.
So we're both transplants.
Which town were you born in?
I was born in London. I was born in Hammersmith.
Oh.
Or Shepherd's Bush.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just right next to each other.
Yes.
All depends what way you look at it. You know Hammersmith.
I know Hammersmith, and we played at the Odeon there. And we're playing in Shepherd's Bush
the
in
Empire.
September.
Shepherd's Bush Empire?
It's not too far from you, right?
Round the corner, yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're doing then? You're doing similar to what you did last time?
We'll do a more celebrating David Bowie, a little different, and we'll have about 10 pieces with us, 10 musicians and a lot of singers, and we'll be in England, around David's birthday.
When are you starting? Are you starting in North America, or you're here first?
No, we're in England and Europe first, and then we hit here in February.
Okay, so you're there in Europe in January.
Yeah,
and then drift out here at the Wilton again.
We'll be at the Wilton again. We had a nice experience there last year. It was really great.
Yeah, and you must have fun playing all that old stuff.
It is fun playing that old stuff, and so many different singers join us. Why don't you join us on Suffragette City and play some guitar with us at the Wilton? Would you like to do that?
Do I get paid? Is there any money in it?
We could work that out.
Yeah?
At least sushi.
Yeah, you never know. Could I do a version of Suffragette City?
Well, I remembered that from you telling me last year, but I just thought maybe you would join us.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
You
just come to the sound check the day of the gig. I think we're there February something or other, 12th or something.
Yeah. 28th.
Okay.
Okay. You're going to give me anxiety now.
Well, you have 6 months to practice.
That's true.
But the dirtier the better, and sort of the way you do it is what we really want on that song.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of Mick Ronson, as I've said many times, and I always say it.
It's just a magnificent guitarist, wasn't he?
So you must have sound checks with him. I mean, what? Because he was classically trained, right?
We had similar training. He was also a very good piano player. And he wrote great string arrangements for David, as you know, for some of those albums. Life on Mars and all that was his string parts.
Yeah.
And he was a great producer. I was very fortunate to play on both his solo albums, which never even came out in the States till many years later. Slaughter on 10th Avenue was one, and Play Don't Worry.
Play Don't Worry, yeah.
And I mean, he just had a magic about his playing and the guitar and that sound. I think it was very melodic.
Totally.
Right.
He was not like a load of nonsense notes. It was all tasty, sing-along kind of notes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what's the one, Prettiest Stars, a classic, that you remember that
For
riff.
Sure.
For
sure.
The lead on that. But, I mean, did you, so you played piano on White Light, White Heat?
I did.
It sounds like you.
Yeah. That was a fun song, I remember Lou Reed sat in with us on David's 50th birthday. And the funny thing about that is we were performing with tracks because we had all these sub-bass things and these additional sounds. So I'd have a click track in my phones, and the band was playing live, and all these great artists sat in with us on David's 50th. Dave Grohl was there, and Frank Black, and Billy Corgan. But when Lou came up, he's very loose, and he wasn't used to playing with clicks and metronomes and all the studio stuff. So we just did some of those songs with him, and the time was all over the place. But it felt great, so who cared? You know?
Yeah. No, he's Lou Reed, classic guy. As far as like just playing it, is like if he played like Perfect Day with acoustic, it would be all over the place.
All over the place.
And it's just him playing it and him singing it. It's like some guys don't get the. I don't know what it is. What is that? Dylan's another one. He kind of does that too.
There's several artists I've played with my whole life, but the funny thing is, even in the jazz world, there was a great drummer named Art Blakey, and there's some recordings where it starts off at a medium tempo, and by the end, it's like lightning fast. The excitement of the time, and I don't really care if it goes up and down as long as I'm aware of it before it starts, because I like the looseness of it. And you mentioned Lou Reed, that way. Didn't Mick have a lot to do with producing that album, Transformer?
Yeah. He did all the arrangements on that, supposedly, too.
I think so, And he brought in a great sax player, I think, who actually David studied saxophone with.
Yeah.
In England. And Herbie Flowers, who played with us. The bass player.
The two parts on Walk on the Wild Side.
You got to love that,
Did you see that? Did you see classic albums? It's that it was a bunch of albums. It's called classic albums, and Transformer was one of it, where they go through detail by detail of all the instruments on it.
Oh yeah.
And Herbie Flowers said he loved doing the two parts on it because he got paid twice by the union. That's why he was pushing it, not for creativeness, but
he ended up being the head of the union in London. He became sort of that kind of a person as the years went on.
Yeah. Do they still have that music union? Do they still have it?
I think they do. They have it over here. I know it's.
There's one on Vine, in there.
There's one on Vine Street,
down by Melrose.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gone in there. I've had no reason to go in there. You ever go in them places?
Just once I had a rehearsal there, with a band. I've been here all those years.
Interesting.
When I was a kid growing up in New York, we'd go to the Union. It was at Roseland, which is a big place in the city, and a lot of bands played there. I played there with David.
Yeah.
But on Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, they'd clear it out. It was a dance hall at night, and in the afternoon, you'd have 1,000 musicians in contract. Who wants to play a wedding and a bar mitzvah for a Saturday night in Brooklyn? And you'd raise your hand, and I was like 15, and that's how I got my gigs.
They were just handing out gigs at the time.
They were handing them out. You'd buy the lead sheets of the latest pop song that came out. You'd learn it, and you'd play it at a wedding that weekend.
Like a cattle call. Almost.
It was absolute cattle call.
Wow. Bizarre.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Historical.
So, did you? What was I going to say? I'm going back to Mick again.
Mick Ronson.
What was I going to say, man? It was important. I can't remember what it was. But I mean, obviously, he didn't get the credit he deserved.
He'd be truly considered an unsung hero. Wouldn't you feel that way?
Yeah, totally. And them songs, without them arrangements, wouldn't have sounded nothing like them songs. They would have been not average, because the actual song, a guitar and the vocals, would have been great. But what really kicks it in is all them arrangements.
They were amazing. And even when he was singing with David, sometimes you actually didn't know who was who.
Yeah. He sounded like him on his solo records.
He knew how to blend in. But, I toured with him live, and it was never the same magic as playing with David Bowie.
No, of course not. He's not a front guy.
He just wasn't a front guy. It was a great band, great music. It just didn't have what David had.
I think he knew that too.
Yeah,
Mick.
Yeah.
I think he was kind of pushed into it. Probably.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. You're right. But aside from being a great guitar player, he was just a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
He made life very easy for me, because I didn't know that world.
Yeah.
He actually gave me great advice. He said, don't become just a studio musician. He said, you'll become white toast and they'll suck all the energy out of you. Pick the ones you want to do and go perform. And I while it was financially hard to do it that way, I listened to him.
Yeah. Yeah, good advice.
Great advice.
Good advice. So prior to you getting the gig with Bowie, what was you playing? Jazz stuff?
I was playing jazz gigs, making $5 a night in clubs with nobody there, wondering why I practiced 8 hours a day for 10 years. I could have learned 3 chords on guitar and been Bob Dylan or something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
Very crazy.
And how did you get that? Did David see you somewhere or something?
Him and Mick liked this singer named Annette Peacock. I don't know if she ever crossed your world.
No.
She did an album called I'm the One. You'd actually like it. And while she was a female singer, David did things vocally exactly like her. And she was an avant-garde singer. I had just played on her album, coincidentally, and when he came to America, he visited her, and she said, "This is the guy you should use on piano."
Wow.
So, but Mick and Mick did a cover of one of her songs called "I'm the One" on his solo album.
On
The ones you know, Slaughter or Play Don't Worry, one of those had "I'm the One."
Yeah.
That was her song.
Yeah.
And she had a crazy way of singing. She's still around. She lives in Woodstock.
Yeah.
And she's a wild, wild lady. I mean,
I think we got that album.
Ah.
I think we got. Well, I know we got it. We're going to play it.
I'm playing on that track, and he heard the track, and he said, "That's the kind of playing I want on my album." But
Yeah.
she was wild. Think of this: 1972. We go in a studio, and she decides she wants to sing through a Moog synthesizer.
Yeah.
At that time, those Moog synthesizers, they covered up all the walls around, and it would get one sound. You couldn't even play a chord on it, and it was a million crazy wires. Well, she plugged in these wires for like 12 hours. I'm getting paid like triple scale to play on her record, and she's plugging these wires in 10 hours or 12 hours after all this is done. She sings into, and all we heard was I said, "Yeah, this is cool."
That was worth doing.
That was worth doing.
Oh man, Moogs. I love all that
you
stuff.
know.
Do you own a Moog?
I own one that got stolen. I used it on tour with David when we were touring with Luther Vandross on the Young Americans album. And I'd have to go out before each show and tune it. It would go out of tune.
They were fun though.
They
Right?
were amazing.
What was the instrument that?
Mellotron.
Yeah. What in Roxy Music?
Mellotron.
Yeah.
I used one on with David from 72 to 74. It was right next to my piano. They work with tapes, so every few days we had a new Mellotron because the tapes would stretch and go out of tune.
Ah.
But that's the sound the Beatles used, those flute sounds
Yeah.
and strings. You hear it
Yeah.
on a million records. It was fun to play it.
Was it Strawberry Fields?
Yeah,
Dun, dun.
that's it.
That's it, right?
That's it.
Let's play. I'm the One. Of the Mick Ronson. What album was it? Was it the first one? Play Don't Worry
think it
or
was the-
Slaughter?
I don't know if it was on Slaughter or Play Don't Worry.
It doesn't matter. We're going to play that now. We're here with Mike Garson, longtime keyboardist for Bowie. He's doing some shows in January in Europe, and he's coming out here in February, and he's playing the 28th of February at the Wilton with various singers, and you're just going to be doing all Bowie?
All Bowie. We have Adrian Blue's going to join us from... He worked with Bowie, and he played with King Crimson for years. He's a great guitarist. And Jerry Leonard, who was one of our guitarists with Bowie in the Reality album. And then we have Carmine Rojas, who played on Let's Dance bass, and he toured with David on the Serious Moonlight Tour. So we have quite a few alumni, and the fellow who produced it last time, his name is Angelo, or we call him Scroat, and he's going to be producing and playing guitar on us. So we have 4 guitars. And
What about Woody Woodmansey? Well, he only really played on the first 2 albums, right? Bowie albums.
No, and the later ones he wasn't on. We're using a guy named Earl Harvin. He's great. He played with Seal. He's a great drummer.
Yeah.
And he's playing with us this time.
I went and saw Woody when he did a thing at the Wilton with...
With Tony?
Yeah,
With the Holy Holy. He's the guy. You paid him the $200, right?
I did. I gave him it back. Yeah.
That's the only story I'll never forget, You stole my piano too, I heard.
I got $100. Would that cover?
I'll take 100.
You know what? I probably would have stole it if it wasn't so big.
It was very big. 9 feet.
Yeah, forget that.
1,500 pounds.
That's a lot. Yeah, I don't think I could get that in the Mini Cooper.
But you got some cymbals, you got some drums,
Yeah.
got a couple of guitars. Did you get Mick's guitar?
No, I spared Mick.
Spare Mick.
I didn't see it. I would have taken it.
You would have taken it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan. Like, in a warped way, that's why I was there, because I was such a fan.
Did you get to see any of the show?
Of course.
You did?
You played 2 nights. I saw the first night.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah. It was fantastic.
I haven't met too many people who were there, you know.
I was there, man. I was
Most
like
of them are
14.
dead, you know.
Yeah.
We're pretty lucky.
Yeah, so far.
So far,
So far, so good.
so far, so good.
Let's play I'm the One. This is Mick Ronson, and this is the lady. What's her name?
Annette Peacock, she wrote it, and I think I'm playing piano on it.
Jonesy's Jukebox, KLOS. How are you? That was excellent.
That's fun.
That was brilliant. Man, that was cool.
Sometimes you just want to jam till you just drop dead and just never stop doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I could have played that for 2 hours, but I don't know if it put people to sleep, but
Grateful Dead made a living out of it.
that's true.
I saw a 4-hour show of theirs in the 60s. I'll never forget.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you ever do any of the funny stuff that everyone was doing back then?
I escaped that. I don't know how.
I know. Did you ever? You never tried it once, Alistair? I tried it twice and I hated it.
No.
Couldn't get my head around it.
Mm-hmm.
Paranoid, no control.
No control. Yeah.
Some people heads are they like that stuff.
Yeah.
They kind of really get off on it. Me, I'm just like, get me out of here. I'm gonna die. That's not fun, you know. But I never got into Grateful Dead. I didn't get into a lot of bands till I became a lot older.
Yeah.
When
That's
I
what
was
happens. Yeah.
What was your thing when you was a teenager? Rock and roll?
No. I knew very little about it. I would hear it in the background, you know, and grew up with Beatles and Elvis and all that. But I was really involved in the jazz world as well as the classical world.
Yeah.
I mean, when David Bowie called me, I didn't even know who he was, and everybody
Really?
else did. Of course, he loved that. you
Yeah.
know, because he was so out there. He figured if this guy doesn't know me and he plays so good, it'll be some new element to my music. You know, that's how he thinks.
Yeah, you're not going in there kissing his ass.
No. He was. I was always asking him what he needed from me, and I found out recently that he really wanted to know from me what I had to bring to his thing. It sort of worked out, but I had so much respect for him. But being a year or two older than him and coming from the jazz and classical world, he wanted to know about that stuff.
Yeah.
And he found ways of plugging it in, you know.
Now, was you on the rise and you wasn't on the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust. You came in on Aladdin Sane.
I came in album-wise, but I did the movie, the Ziggy Stardust movie, and that was filmed during 1972 when we were touring. In fact, in Santa Monica we did it.
Yeah.
So I played all that music, but the Ziggy album was 6 months before I joined.
Yeah. And like I was a massive fan, like I told you. Everyone knows.
Amazing music, right?
Yeah, and I was, 14, 15, and then the second album came out. And it always stuck in my head. I'm like, wow, what's this crazy piano on it? It was like, it was out there, but it kind of, it worked as well. For a 14-year-old, I mean, you were playing a lot of kind of jazzy chords.
There was a lot of jazzy chords, and on the Aladdin Sane solo, I have a great story that I didn't hear till the 90s from David's son. He came to one of our shows, and he said that when his dad played that music when he was like 3 or 4 years old, he would have nightmares from my piano solo that went on for 10 years. He confessed this to me. I said, oh, I did my job.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when you're in there and you take a solo, obviously that's not written, that's just you hearing what you hear in your head along to the track.
Exactly.
So when you were doing that in the studio, you were kind of more freed, and as opposed to, or the songs you were reading?
I think what Mick Ronson did is he might have scratched me out the chords for Time and Lady Grinning Soul and Aladdin Sane and all those songs. But basically, when my solos came, they were totally improvised. And with the Aladdin Sane solo, it was truly a one take. And I never heard that solo for like 15, 20 years because I went back into the jazz world and never heard it, you know.
Yeah.
So it's more history that sort of worked in my favor that way, because most of the time, 30, 40 years later, when people are waking up to that song and hearing it, a new generation, normally the artists are dead by then, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Chopin and those composers, they lived to 35, 40, 45, you know, or Jaco Pastorius at 40, or Charlie Parker, you know. So those of us who've been fortunate to still hang in there and then see history proving certain things is fascinating.
Yeah. Now, when you joined, would you say you joined Bowie's band? You were off to the side, but you could see you, right, on stage?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, did he, like he did with the Spiders, he kind of said, listen, this is what you're gonna have to make an effort. You can't just wear flares. Did Bowie get you to dress up a bit?
Absolutely. He had me in big platform shoes, and he had a designer create me a tuxedo, so I had that thing of like a musical director pianist, but kind of modern for those days. It wasn't just a black tuxedo. It had like some wild flower on it. It was gray with different kind of fabric, and it was very cool. And then eventually the makeup came on, you know, just like what happened to the Spiders. Where am I, you know?
Yeah. And you were okay with that?
Loved it.
You're not
Loved
like,
it.
oh, I know.
No, I loved it.
That's good.
I loved it. I was playing with on the Spiders tour. I was actually playing with gloves, like silk gloves with beads on them. Number one, to protect my finger. Then the look was kind of cool.
And you could play the piano okay?
Yeah, they were very tight gloves.
Thin, yeah.
OJ gloves, you know.
Yeah, really tight. Well, one of them was anyway. Now, what was I going to say? Oh, it skipped my mind. Getting old, Mike.
It's a good thing because that makes you improvise better.
Does it?
Why do you think I improvise? I don't remember shit, you know.
Let's play some Aladdin Sane.
Let's hear what it sounds like.
You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS with my guest, Mike Garson, who's going to be celebrating David Bowie's 2018 tour of North America and Europe. I said, hey, babe, take a walk on the wild side. I said, hey, honey, take a walk on the wild side. Take a walk on the wild side. I said, hey, honey, take a walk on the wild side. Hey, sugar, take a walk on the wild side. Hey, babe, take a walk on the wild side. All right. Take take a walk on the wild side. Go walk on the wild side.